Sounds good. All right. Excellent. Okay, super. So we'll go ahead and get started here, and we're doing a little bit of a back and forth, and we like to leave Sparky enough time to do editing, and so I'm not just rambling on for no apparent reason. We have an awesome program here this evening, which you can see being set up over here, which will come at the end of the regular business portion of the meeting. So to start with, I already introduced myself. Something we were talking about at the board meeting recently is we should introduce everybody who's on the board, because those people work really hard for the club, and we would like them to be known and recognized. So I'm going to go walk around and hand the microphone to people and say, hey, who are you and what do you do here? So since Sparky's right here and close to me, we'll Mr. Sparky.
And everybody at home will see a blank screen for a while, but that's okay. So I'm N5GPM. I'm Sparky. I'm the club treasurer and webmaster with assistance from Eric Blanchard over in AP. He helps me out with the website as well. WE5B is his call sign.
That's a cool call sign. All right, Mr. Jim.
Good evening. I'm Jim Wilkin, N5VL. I'm the vice president of the club, and hope nothing will happen to John, so I can stay the vice president of the club.
Gotta get ready to throw yourself in front of a bullet there, Jim. All right, Miss Rachel.
Hi, everybody. I'm Reverend Rachel Whitefield Wilkin, K5RWW. I'm a ham clearer, and I'm on your board.
Thank you. All right. Who we got in here? Mr. Steve.
I'm Steve N0WZH, and I'm the secretary of the board. Still trying to figure out what that is, even though I've done it in the past. And what else do I do? Whatever she says. So that's it.
Thank you. Let's see here. We have Mr. Wayne.
Good evening, all. I'm K5NCW, and I am one of the board members of STARC.
Hi, I'm Joel, W1JTD. I am the liaison to the USS Lexington.
We'll be talking to Mr. Joel here again in just a second. Mr. James.
Hi, I'm James, 85TC, also double as board member and as your VE representative for the volunteer examiners in testing here locally in the Nueces County area.
Awesome. Thank you. Mr. David, we'll round out with you.
David Wendell, KJ5 Delta Whiskey board member.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So one of the things we have done in the past, we've done Rob walked around and said, hey, what's your name and what's your call sign? But I'm making a command decision here. And I'm going to suggest that you all chit chat after the meeting, because that's part of the fellowship of all of this, right? So I think that's a fantastic idea, because one, people don't like being called on. I found that, especially myself. I personally don't like being called on. And two, I want to get you all out of here so we're not filling up a lot of time. Yes, Mr. Steve. Oh, absolutely. You read my mind. That was the next thing I was going to say. So we do have a couple of visitors. So if you want a visitor, you want to throw your hand up, I will call on you. If you don't, that's totally fine too. All right, sir. Hi, I'm John. Very nice to meet you, Bob. How you doing? Are you a ham?
Yeah, in name only, or whatever it is. I got my general, but I haven't used it yet.
Okay.
So.
Okay. What's your call sign?
Kilo 0 Romeo Echo Bravo.
Excellent. Well, welcome. We're happy to have you. Fantastic. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Howdy. Hi there. Name's Brian.
Nice to meet you, Brian.
I've been waiting on my call sign now for a year.
Oh, my goodness.
And there's other individuals that I deal with in the group from Ingleside and that have been a big help. But yeah.
Okay. So, well, welcome, super. We're happy that you're here. Hello. What's this fellow's name?
This is Bandit.
Hello. Bandit.
He's my sidekick.
Okay.
I drive long.
Okay. I probably could have guessed that by your Bluetooth headset there. Yeah, it was funny. I was just explaining to my son why. He said, why do truckers pay $300 for a Bluetooth headset? And I said, because they're really good, that's why. Well, I mean, you could have a $50 one and it would probably be legal, right? It just wouldn't work. All right, we're cutting out a little bit here. I know. It just doesn't like me. Okay, so let's cover a little business here. Sparky, since you're right here, did you have anything you'd like to say about our finances or our donations? Excellent. I love the idea of that.
Make sure y'all get to see it. Hi, so I'm Sparky. I'm your treasurer. So we're not going to get into the details of the financing just because we're putting this on the internet, but the club is solvent, and so we don't have any major expenses coming up at this point in time. We have a couple projects that we're working on that could take some expenses, but that has not been approved by the board yet. We have all of our major annual items that come up, like insurances and stuff, but those don't come up till August and October. So once those come in, those will be paid. If you have any questions specifically about the finance and you want to see the report, go ahead and see me after the meeting, and I'll be happy to share that with you. And as always, if you haven't paid your membership, that's always appreciated because we do have expenses that the club does cover. One, again, being the insurances to make sure that everybody's protected when we go out and do events such as Field Day that's going to be talked about here shortly. So those dues cover those expenses and also help out with some of our repeater operations. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Sparky. And real quick, while we're still talking around, I'm going to put Mr. James on the spot back there. He's our immediate past president, KG5 USB. I saw him walk in the door there. Mr. James also serves on the board. So big wave for Mr. James there. Awesome. So let's talk repeaters here for a moment. I'm going to pass the mic to Mr. Jim here for an update on that. But I will say something we had talked about last month. I was encouraging you, one, to use repeaters. So I'm seeing a lot more of that, which I'm super happy about. And two, treat the repeater as if it was you're visiting somebody's house, and everybody's doing a super great job. Really happy about that. So thank you all who are using the repeaters and using them correctly. It's fantastic. I won't get into all the chunking going on, but we'll do that another time. We can cover that, but we know who you are, right? Okay. Hey, Jim, you have anything to say about the repeaters?
Thank you, John. Well, all of the repeaters are functioning quite well right now, which is good. The 44225, which is linked to the Crossroads system, which covers most of Central and East Texas, is working well, except we have a sensitivity issue on the receiver, and we have a filter that we're getting retuned, and hopefully that will take care of that. All the other repeaters are working well. The Yaesu repeater that has Fusion on it seems to be working real well. I would like to ask a question, and that is, how many of you are using the Fusion repeater? How many of you have been on the All-Star Link repeater? Okay, good. They are out there to be used. We have a lot of repeaters. In case something goes down, we still have the repeaters up. And we are looking for a home for yet another repeater, the 06 that was taken down because of interference issues. We're looking for a new home for that. And so hopefully we'll find that sometime in the near future. But other than that, it's going good. And like John said, we want them to be used. We invite everyone in the area, club member or not, to get on one of the repeaters and enjoy them, because that's why we did them. That's why we're there.
I'll leave you on the spot here to talk about the
That's Sparky's baby. Okay.
So if you're not aware, there are the two systems that we currently have linked. We have the Fusion, which is on SADRC, San Antonio Digital Radio Club. It's got multiple repeaters linked up in the San Antonio, Austin, and kind of going up 35. Some stuff they're trying hard to move farther south on 37. So depending on if we stay on the connection, they're going to look for a location to fill the gap. So that way you could just switch towers as you're moving down the highway going northbound on 37 and stay in constant contact with people that could be potentially useful in a hurricane situation. But with that is Fusion technology, Fusion digital. So you have to have a Yaesu Fusion radio to actually make that work properly. That's on the 88 machine. On the 442250, it's FM. Any radio will work on it. It's linked to Crossroads Ham Radio Club Network, which they have numerous repeaters all up the Gulf Coast into Houston, and even one further than that. Can't exactly remember where it's at. There's one in Shiner, Texas. There's one in LaGrange, I believe. There's a new one that just came up in Katy and in Pasadena. So once you get north of Refugio, you can jump onto those repeaters and stay constantly connected almost all the way into Houston. So there's a little gap between Refugio. Actually, we're seeing a little coverage issue with our UHF 442250. That's what we're trying to get cleared up. So once we establish where that coverage ends, they're looking to fill that gap as well. But the beauty of that system is it's FM, so any radio will work. So those group of people are very happy to talk to us. They got a lot going on. They're constantly improving their network. They're excited that we're online, and we just kind of want to see where it all goes. But that's all I got about those two networks. Any questions specifically about that? Okay.
Thank you. I'm going to hand this to Mr. Jim here in just a moment. I will share a little bit of levity with you all about the San Antonio Digital Radio Club. So we had a meeting with them as club to club a few months ago now, I guess. And one of the clubs, we're going to get a little blue here. One of the clubs is a club in Austin, which is a nudist colony. It gets better. Their club call sign is N5UDE. I'm not kidding. I mean, right? You can't make this stuff up. All right. So before somebody grabs the hook, I'm gonna pass the mic back to Mr. Jim to talk about licensing classes and RACES.
Well, as far as emergency communications goes, we always need help. We're still looking for the club is an ARES club. And so we're still looking for an ARES member who would like to be the liaison to the club. So that position is open unless somebody would like to join in and help right now. As far as RACES is concerned, we always need help. The duty there is continuance of governance. We operate in the EOCs between the district disaster committee and all of the EOCs and back to Austin and the state operating center. And so you'd be assigned a specific job there, but we always need help. We have the class coming up. Okay, this Saturday we have a technicians class coming up. It's going to be held here, and it's an all-day deal from 9 o'clock until hopefully 4 o'clock, and then we'll take a little break and do the testing at 5 o'clock. The testing is open to anyone, so if you want to upgrade, if you take the course, then you'll test for your tech. But if you want to upgrade general extra, James said, come on down, and we'll take care of you. And that should be around 5 o'clock. So that's our target at the time. Everything's a little flexible depending on how the course goes. I think that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. So before I pass to Mr. James for an update on testing in general, I will add for all of you watching on our live stream, if you are coming to the class, please reach out to N5VL, Mr. Jim here. It's N5VL@outlook.com. Is that correct? Just to let us know you're coming. We would love to have you. And if you're coming, you need to have your FRN number when you get here. So if you need some information on how to do that, you can Google, how do I get my FRN number? And there is a cornucopia of resources available for that. And with that, I'll pass it to Mr. James to see if he has any comments about testing in general or licensing and whatnot as our resident VEC.
Thank you. I'd like to refer everybody to n5crp.org, our website. Under that website, you will find the VE testing information. Feel free to take advantage of that information, and most of it's going to tell you what you need to bring, and all important, have that FRN number when you arrive. If you're going to do I think somebody called it the ham cram. If you're going to take that class, have your FRN number before you arrive. It's very simple, very straightforward. Go to CORS, create your account, then go over to FCC, and they'll assign you a number, which will be your FRN number, and then you'll bring that to the testing session. You'll need it later on after you pass your test in order to get in there, and they'll show that you've passed the test, and you'll click on the little icon at the left of the line, and that'll take you back to CORS where you can pay your fee. And that's how it's done. It's all done online. I'd like to announce that beyond that, fees, the standard testing fee for ARRL is $15. So when you come to the test, you need to bring the $15 with you. If you, for some reason, miss it by one question and you want to take it again, you go into a second testing session. So that'll be another $15. If you pass, then you have available to you the general class test at no charge. So you don't have to pay the extra $15 to get your general if you study a little bit extra in preparation for that when you get there. I do have another announcement. On May the 22nd, at the Dairy Queen in Portland at 6 p.m. will be our next big test session. So you pass the test this coming Saturday, and you've got that much time to study for your general or your extra. Or if you're coming in as a tech and you want to take the general on Saturday, you got that much time to study for your extra. So that on your calendar. That's May the 22nd, Portland, Texas, Dairy Queen, 6 p.m. Now then, with your permission, in preparing for coming over tonight, I did run across something that is a rather sad event, although a happy event. The owner of MFJ, Martin F. June, I think it is retiring. He's 80 years old. He's been providing amateur radio equipment for 40 plus years. And so he's going into retirement. They are closing the two Mississippi plants, the one for MFJ products and the one for Americatron products. The good side is he has announced that they have a warehouse full of product. So MFJ products will continue to be available. But the plant won't be producing anything new. Also, he announced that if you have a warranty, they're going to keep the shop open. So warranty service will continue to be available, and non-warranty repairs will continue to be available on MFJ and Ameritron products. This is just breaking, I think the letter was dated the 25th, 24th, something like that, of April. So the rumor is no longer a rumor. He is retiring. And I'm sorry I have to bring that information to you tonight, but the cat's out of the bag. Are there any questions on the testing? Any questions at all? And thank you, Jim, where'd you go? Thank you, Jim, for putting together the ham cram. I think it's something that we've needed for a long time. It's not an easy project, but we thank you for taking it on. And all you VEs, we got work.
Thank you, Mr. James. Appreciate that. Yeah, I had also read that about MFJ. I read that on Reddit right before I came over here. So that's definitely some breaking news. Mr. Joel, did you have anything you'd like to chit chat about the Lexington about? While he's walking up here, I'll tell you, ask him about his radio. Those are great radios.
I'm going to focus on one thing tonight. We have Museum Ships Weekend coming up June 1st and June 2nd. June 1st is a Saturday. I'll be there at 8 o'clock and spend as much time as I need to throughout the day, as long as we have other hams there. We have a work day scheduled. The work day is May 11th, Saturday, May 11th. And I'll make 3 comments about that. First one is you need to be a paid member in order to work on the Lexington so that our insurance will cover you. If you have a step ladder, we're going to be running overhead. It's only about an 8.5 foot ceiling, but if you stand there all day trying to pull wire, it's going to be rough without a step ladder. The other thing is if you can have a radio available that we can get on the Lexington repeater, we'll use that to talk among the different workstations. The idea is to pull Cat 5 cable, 2 sections of it. It's about 300 feet, I believe. I have a 1,000-foot roll of Cat 5 cable we bought, the club purchased last year, and we're trying to get that control head for the scanty down into the new room, which is on the hangar deck. So those of you who don't want to climb the ladders, when you come out on Saturday, June 1st, they do have the doorways you got to walk over, so you got to step over that, but you don't have to go up and down ladders. And our goal is to have the scanty working in that room so that people can make contacts for museum ships. I have started a computer setup, and I've discussed with the Lexington about getting some chairs in the room for this event, so they are available, or they are aware of the event. So looking forward to that. That's going to be a big one. There are other projects that are on the schedule for the Lexington, but really we just need to focus on this so that we can have the scanty ready in the new room by June 1st. So that is all I'm going to say, other than the TID radio is a nice radio.
And they're cheap. They're like $50 too. What time is the?
Yeah, 9 o'clock on the 11th. Yes, that's when the ship normally opens. So yes, that's the plan.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. So that's an interesting segue into 2 separate topics. One, well, kind of separate. The Lexington is an awesome resource. And one of the benefits that you all have as being members of this club is you can go to Lexington for free. We have a couple of membership cards. If you'd like to take your family, please just see a board member. We have a couple of cards. We'd happy to give you one of those, and you can go do that. I'll save you like $50. So please do take advantage of that. Yes, sir. All right, so that was a little side conversation regarding how much the maximum cable length is for Cat 5 cable, which for those of you watching at home is 328 feet. And now you can win your next game of Trivial Pursuit. The second piece I wanted to say is that's a good segue into something that Miss Rachel has spearheaded and helps with Todd Barker, KA5LYL, who was looking for some help getting a poll up. We're a great group of people and we love to help each other. One of the things that came out of our conversations with the San Antonio Digital Radio Club is they have a service which they refer to as the Hambulance, which I think is adorable, to help folks when they have ham problems. And so we don't have anything organized like that, but one of the things I would like to spearhead over the course of this year is a STARC version of the Hambulance in honor of Miss Rachel, because she came up with the idea of hams helping hams, because I really like that. And we, have a great group of people. We have an awesome set of minds here with a lot of experience and, something that's like, oh, I know how to fix that. Maybe somebody's absolute nemesis, right? Like I didn't know Cat 5 was 328 feet, for example. That's probably not going to come up in my day-to-day life, but who knows? It might happen. So think about that. If you would like to contribute to that, please reach out to one of the board members, and we're going to be talking about that over the course of the next couple of months. Let's see what else we have. We have a certificate this evening, do we not, Jim? Oh, I see. Okay, very well. So we have another new program where each month we haven't come up with a cute name for it. So I'm assigning each of you a take-home project to come up with a cute name for a monthly award that we give a ham for helping other hams. So let's think about that. So I'll call it an attaboy, for lack of a better term right now. So we were going to give out an attaboy this evening, but our recipient is not here. What'd you say, Miss Rachel? Hammy. Okay, that's good. I like that. The hammy. That's good. I like it. It's good. That's a good one. Okay, super. Let's see what else we have coming here. The last thing I have is field day plans. So field day is right around the corner. It's like 2 months, right? Maybe not even 2 months, 7 weeks, something like that. It's quick. In the past couple of years, we've had field day here at St. Mark's in the back 40 here, which is nice, but I have been making arrangements to have summer field day at the Corpus Christi Museum of Science and History. So I'm still working out the fine details of that. But what we will probably do is be able to operate in that cul-de-sac right there by the ship channel. And have some of the winter garden space over there. Our one limitation right now is power, and I'm working on that. But we have approval from the museum and approval from the city. So those two our hurdles have been crossed, jumped over. And honestly, the city was the most difficult one, and that was relatively simple. So that's actually going to be kind of awesome because we can operate there. You know, the ships will be going by. Maybe we could hook something up with Lexington back and forth. Would be kind of fun. If somebody's feeling particularly saucy, maybe you could run a wire to the bridge and use the bridge as an antenna, right? I hear people doing that with gutters, so why not? So stay tuned on information on that, but I thought that would be a lot of fun and just be something different. So with that, I think that's all I have for the agenda this evening. Is there anything from the floor anybody would like to discuss as members? Yes, Mr. Jin.
One of the things that we talked about in the board meeting is getting an umbrella, well, more of a canopy done specifically with our logo and everything to use at field day and to do more than just field days. The club needs to be out and doing more people, and we hear from people that say, hey, let's do some more stuff. So we have a lot of options like the monthly art walk downtown, various schools, fun stuff. We could just say, let's go out to a park and do a get on the air event this weekend or whatever, so that instead of just being twice a year, we're out doing things all the time. And so keep that in mind. And if you would like to help us go out and do this stuff, please let us know so we know where our resources is when we get started to do that. And so that's all I have, John. Thank you.
All right. With that in mind, I will bring the official portion of the South Texas Amateur Radio Club monthly eyeball meeting to a close. But don't leave yet because we have cookies and lemonade and tea over there. And you're probably wondering what this contraption is, and I was as well. Jim has been sort of like drip teasing me about this for the better part of a week, and super interested in that. And I apologize. I'm a terrible host. Hi, I'm John. Nice to meet you, Keith. KB5MO. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic to Mr. Keith, and Mr. Keith is going to tell us all about microwave, which is kind of awesome.
Well, hello. My name is Keith Waddle. I'm KB5MO. Officially got my license back in late 70s. Been around ham radio most of my life. Both my uncles were hams. But seems like every time I'd sort of get interested in getting my license, we moved. So that, being a school kid, that sort of put the kibosh on that again. Anyway, in the 70s, I got interested in ham radio again down here in Corpus Christi area. And I had a friend of mine that lived in the same town that I lived in, Portland, and his name was Bill Nogues. I don't know if any of y'all know him. He's not active anymore, but he was W5GVE. He was good into the lower microwave bands, 432, 1296, 2304 megahertz. I don't think he went up any higher than that until he got into 10 gig. And so this was back in the bad old days when to generate any RF on those frequencies, you had to build a big, powerful oscillator or lower frequency, like 2 meters, 432 power stage, and then dump that into some varactors and play with magic and get some RF out on the band. And since it multiplies up the frequency, you can't really use sideband, or it sort of messes it up. But CW works. So Bill had built some stuff in his shack that would scare the daylights out of you. 8877s with high voltage right there within touching distance. And anyway, he was a very good builder. But it was interesting. He got into 10 gigahertz, him and can't think of his name right now. But anyway, I'll think of it later. He and Bill were playing around with 10 gigahertz gunplexers. Gunplexers were a little box. Actually, this is a big box because the little gunplexer is just a little tiny waveguide size box with an oscillator on it, a varactor diode to FM it, and a ferrite circulator and a detector diode, all in one little box, one little thing about that big. And it came with an intact antenna like this. This one's not intact anymore, unfortunately. That's a 17 dB gain antenna, by the way. Anybody like to get that much gain? 17 dB gain. I can't remember what that one was. We calculated it one time, but I've forgotten now. Anyway, this is what comes with the gunplexer, and made by Microwave Associates, and I think they've changed hands and no longer even have the name. You know if they're still, but they're not. They're owned by somebody else now. And anyway, I got 2 of these things later on, and I built a receiver, a 30 megahertz receiver with automatic frequency control to be able to keep the gunplexer on frequency. And these are what you call a homodyne transceiver. The oscillator, the power oscillator that's feeding the RF out the antenna is the same thing as the local oscillator. So it's a homodyne receiver. If you've ever walked into a HEB and the doors automatically open, you just walked into the field of a probably X-band 10 gigahertz homodyne transceiver, and it detected your presence and opened the door. So I have 2 of these. I was going to demo both of these tonight. I hate to say, but I can't find the other one. So you've never had a shack that you know you've got it, but you can't find it. That's me. So I apologize. All I can do is say this is what it's supposed to do. And this is a 30 megahertz receiver. Got some little bit of signal processing. This thing uses wideband FM. Bill Nogas and I originally did our first 10 gigahertz gunplexing across the Corpus Christi Bay using FM broadcast receivers. FM broadcast receivers, because those things usually have automatic frequency control built into them. You just tune around and it pops right up onto the broadcast frequency. Well, so that's what you need with the gunplexer. If it gets within, say, 100 megahertz of the other gunplexer, they have to offset in frequency to be able to work. And it goes get close to the AFC capture range, it locks on. You can't use it on both ends. Just one person has to use it. And this is full duplex. So you're sitting there talking, and it's just like talking on a telephone. I was over in Ingleside, and Bill was over on, I think it was Cole Park or Ropes Park. Anyway, I couldn't see him, but I could detect his signal. But we were using the FM broadcast band as the IF, and the FM broadcast receivers were cheap, they're readily available. Well, later on, they came up with a little bit better functioning radios, get a little bit narrower filters. This one's still the wideband filter in this little receiver, and we still were shooting X-band radiation across the bay and around South Texas, finding a high spot to be able to play around with, and also had some other people that were interested in it too. They bought some gunplexers, and so we all had a lot of fun. But there's an inherent limitation of this kind of stuff. You're limited to, they have 3 output powers, 10, 20, and 30 milliwatts. And the price goes up pretty good. And of course, not many people can afford the 35 milliwatt unit, even though it's not that much more signal. So if you really need to make some real distance. You're limited because it's really broadband, it's wide bandwidth AM, and you've only got 35 milliwatts to play with. Which then you pump it into a nice dish and it comes up with some pretty good effective radiated power. Now, I jumped into X-band because I had already started off on the wideband gunplexer stuff, and I had a lot of hardware. I was given a big box full of waveguide pieces and fittings and waveguide switches, detectors, all kinds of goodies like that. So I was pretty well endowed with a lot of 10 gigahertz X-band WR90 rectangular waveguide, 90.9 inch long dimension. Where is it? Right here. It's 0.9 inches across here, and that pretty much covers the below and above the 10 gigahertz part of the spectrum. So I concentrated on that. Well, then what was happening, the movers and shakers in the hamdom, they started trying to get more range. Everybody wants to get better DX. Across the Gulf, all kinds of stuff. Gunplexers, you're sort of limited. So what they had to do, they had to come up with narrowband systems. And this is effectively a narrowband system. This uses a 2-meter all mode single side, upper lower CW FM even. Yaesu radio as the IF. So that plugs into this, which is just the big yellow box. Don't let the yellow box intimidate you. I was looking for something that's waterproof. I found out later, even though it's got an O-ring in it, it's not waterproof. Sadly, I built up a 10 gigahertz beacon, CWID beacon, which I've set out there on the bench out in front. I set it out there and let it warm up. It takes a long time for that thing to stabilize. So I went on a business trip, and in the meantime, it's like South Texas, we haven't had any rain for so many weeks. And I go on a business trip, and we have a heck of a storm. And I realized, oh dear, my CW beacon is probably getting water. And it did. But I couldn't get back in time to rescue it. So it got water. It got wet. It got wet on the inside. And the oscillator has a problem with the crystal control. There's a crystal. It's slave to the crystal controlled reference. And there's something wrong with the oven temperature control. So it's not up my 30-foot mast like I had, and it drifts all over the place now. And so I'll talk a little bit more about propagation modes. At 144 sideband, probably a lot of y'all have already been on sideband, VHF sideband, UHF sideband. It has some quirks whenever you get up into the VHF, UHF bands. Tropo propagation, troposcatter, ducting, man, that stuff is cool. Well, it works even at 10 gigahertz. In fact, sometimes it works exceptionally well. But there's one thing that I played around with was rain scatter. Rain scatter from shooting 10 X-band RF into the top of thunderstorms, and where you have raindrops that are being lofted by the upwelling currents, and it gets up and then it slows down and it starts dropping back down. So you have this churning motion of all these raindrops, and they also can generate a whole lot of nice propagation. So if you aim your dish at the top of a thunderstorm and you have somebody either on the opposite side of the thunderstorm or behind you, because it scatters the RF forward and backwards. Now, this is horizontal polarization. They figured out, okay, horizontal polarization on VHF, on UHF and microwaves works best because you get a little bit more gain, a couple of dB, something like that, just because it's horizontal versus vertical. The raindrops, everybody's accustomed to, you know, the little shape of the rain, a little teardrop or a raindrop. It's sort of pointy at the end, and it's a nice little ball, and it comes back up to a little point. Not true. Not true. Raindrop is actually when they're real small, they're effectively a tiny little sphere. As they get bigger, the wind, the upwelling wind that's lofting them, flattens the bottom of them. And y'all know what a Werther's candy looks like? You had that? Okay. I meant to get a bag of them today. Forgot about it. But they are pretty close to that shape. And they are great on 10 gigahertz for scattering your RF forward. So if you have, like, say, here in Corpus Christi, if you have a clear shot north to, say, you got somebody up in Dallas and they can see a thunderhead off at the horizon due south of them, and I can see it too just up the horizon. We can point our radios to that thunderstorm, and we can call, and we can hear. Usually start off on CW, and you know how nice pure CW note comes out of the radio, and oops, wrong knob, backwards. I have a beacon sitting out there on that bench, and I can't see which way I'm going with that. Excuse me. Nice little clear note, right? Okay. When you shoot that RF into the top of a big thunderstorm, you're going out into your shop, your air compressor, and you pull your air hose out and you're playing around. You start sending CQ with an air hose. That's exactly what it sounds like. There's no musicality left. All it is. So you have this broad hiss. And so that's what you're copying. You copy a signal coming out of the opposite side of a thunderstorm. It goes in nice and pure tone like that, and it comes out just as a completely obliterated note. It's just RF, scrambled RF. And when you have that much spreading, Doppler spreading from a signal, even though the signals are off the chart, I mean, they're really strong. But try to go to sideband. Now, sideband is completely obliterated by the Doppler spreading. One mode works really good, FM. So if you've got enough RF and you liaison with the other station, usually on 2 meter sideband, horizontal, or cell phone, usually works best, especially if you only have one. Like me, I only had one transceiver for 2 meter sideband. We'd liaison for the other side and have them switch over. We could tell sort of what they're saying on sideband, but it was so scrambled, it's just really unintelligible. So call them, say, hey, let's try FM. And flip over to FM, you can work and get a contact. Really strange. So done that. That has been a lot of fun. I've used various objects around town, water towers as a point to reflect off of. aim the thing up there, and you can get some pretty good elevation, and you get the right angle on it. You can work pretty good distance. If the other, especially if the other guy can sort of tell where you are. That's the other problem with an antenna like this, with about 3-degree beam width. You have to coordinate with the other station. He's up the state, and you can't see where he's at. You have to get him pointing at your grid square, and you have to point to his grid square. And at the time, where is it? Back whenever I was running around town, running around Texas, I was a member of the Roadrunners Microwave Group, RMG, out of Austin, San Antonio. We were primarily VHF rovers, so we would make contact for people up the country around that had fixed stations. Some of these people have some amazing fixed stations, some big dishes, super preamps, and TWTs, high power traveling wave amplifiers to get all this, to get that much, a lot of RF. So what your little station can't do, they can make up for it with all their stations. But anyway, we would give them the grid square contact by roving around, and we'd pick out on a map nice place to set up. One of the places that I wanted to try was in Kennedy. There is a cemetery on a bluff, and you can park up on top at the edge of the cemetery and look north, and seem like you can see all the way to Dallas, but not quite. So that was one of the things that you can do with 10 gigahertz, or even 5 gig, or 2304. 3456 has been taken away from the hams. That was the calling frequency, and so there's a lot of equipment out there with 3456 we can't use. And they've come out with some modified equipment now to get, we're allowed to use 3400, I think, 3400 megahertz. So there's hope. You can get some of your hardware modified to be able to cover those bands. I started at 10 gig. A lot of people start at the bottom end, 1296, 2304, and work up. And they add another system. Well, I already had some 10 gig hardware like this, and it's, especially the waveguide stuff and the dishes. They don't care what RF you put through it, whether it's wideband or narrowband CW. One of the things that I did not do is I did not get into using any of the digital modes that have been developed in recent years since. The beauty of the digital modes is they will pick up where you leave off with the narrowband and stabilized transverters like this. Let me roll this around. On the aluminum plate, you can see some of the drawings. This is the stuff I modified. This is the BB6NT 10 gig transverter. That's all you really need to start off with. So I thought. So you have to have a TR relay. Okay, had to get that. 12-volt ones are really hard to find, but a lot of the other hams already figured that out. How to drive a 28-volt relay, 12 volts, and have it pulled in and hold. A little PC board that gives it a pulse of 28 volts and it holds it at 12. Well, I got busy with a 10 gigahertz microwave weekend where everybody was trying to make contacts, and here it was in early summer, late spring, early summer, in South Texas. This transverter, the reference crystal in it is a 40 C crystal. Doesn't sound like much, but this thing's made in Germany. In Texas, we hit 40 C easily. And inside of that box, inside of the module, you go to transmit, and the inside starts getting hotter and hotter, and the crystal starts drifting. I found out I needed 4 hands, one to hold the mic, one to point the antenna, one to QSY, another hand to hang on because of the wind. So I said, this is not fun. I'm in South Texas, melting myself in the summertime, and I'm not affecting any contacts. So I said, okay, I've got to divide and conquer. Hear I drift? It's not this. That's the thing outside that's drifting. That's the beacon. So I said, all right, I've got to do something about this reference oscillator. So I bought a new local oscillator, programmable local oscillator, and I bought a 10 megahertz oven controlled crystal oscillator, an ovenized crystal reference. And between those two, I had to go in, then comes out with a 5112 gigahertz local oscillator injection into the DB6NT. I had to go inside, pop the lid on that thing. Oh, that's so pretty. I don't want to take the X-Acto knife to that. So, but I did. I cut the PC board traces, and I cut the other one. I drilled a little hole for the SMA connector going in. It worked. So, I got the thing ready, and I found out, okay, I'm already doing this. Now let's see if I can do something better. Remote turning this antenna. Because I've got a diesel pickup truck with an air conditioner that was running, and I was in the back of the truck. I said, no, this is not good. I got to be inside that van, inside the cab. So a little DC globe motor that probably was made for a piece of Collins radio gear that was surplus. And I got a tubing fitting and some stuff, put it together and put it up on what you see here, this central pipe is a 1-inch piece of stainless steel bar stock, drilled and tapped on both ends of the thing. And at the bottom is 1.25 inch National Fine. That's what threads into the bed of my truck. That was already there. That's for a fifth wheel. So I got that made. Turn this down. So that sat in the middle of my bed of my truck, and over the top of that sat a piece of 1-inch conduit and a 2-meter halo, because I was running 2-meter sideband, about 320 watts. Enjoyed that. Didn't realize how noisy 2-meter sideband was, but it was, especially you get into town, and it is just terrific. So I pulled that off, put the 10 gigahertz dish and the weather resistant box on the back, and as long as I drove real slow, I didn't have to worry about it getting blown off. But if I was going to get on the highway, I had to pull the thing off and lay it down on the bed and go to the next location, put this all back up. Anyway, I find a good location, get the thing all set back up, get it aimed right with my GPS. Just get a hold of somebody that's going to make a contact. You get to say 43 degrees. Okay, crank the thing around. You walk around with your thing, get your bearing, and get in the truck. Turn the air conditioning on high. All right, I can do this. I can do this. So that was more fun. That became fun. Then 10 gigahertz was sort of the my what do you call it? My main squeeze, so to speak. I started to get some 1296 or 2304 gear, but then work duties got busy for me, and so I was not able to do a lot of that. But anyway, I have a little bit of this stuff. I don't have any other transverters for other bands. I'll pass this around. That is a quarter wavelength on 10 gigahertz. That's a brass tag. I just drilled a hole in the middle of it and soldered that piece of silver plated Teflon covered wire and snipped it off to the right length. That's my Omni antenna for whenever I don't have the dish on it, if I'm doing something on the bench. So gives you an idea, 2 meters, 19 inches tall. Now, the beacon that was doing its job had a 17 dB gain antenna on it. Looks like this, but the waveguide flange was still attached. So to get deep South Texas, if you look at the map, most of these stations in the state of Texas are Dallas, Fort Worth, mostly Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, and some in Houston. Well, I can't do anything about Houston. That's off at another angle. But most everything is to the north and everything. So I needed something on that beacon that would spread in 120 degrees, 180 degrees. To get horizontal polarization, you have to have something really special, like a milled out slotted Alfred slot antennas and all kinds of special stuff on any of the microwave bands if you're going to go horizontal omnidirectional. But I happen to find an antenna. If any of you servicemen is ever around a B-52, they have a couple of blisters on each side, little bulges on each side of the cockpit. And that's a radar warning and jamming system. This is the antenna that's underneath that blister. WR90 flange, horizontal polarized, and it gives you about 180 degree beam width. Don't think I don't know if it's got any gain, especially if you're going to be spreading it around 180 degrees. But I've got this, and if I can get that beacon repaired where it stays put, that's going to go back on it. One of the things I found whenever I first put it up, oak trees, or you might as well be pointing at a concrete wall. It won't go through there. Even at UHF 432, never do a path check during the wintertime when all the leaves are gone. You may be in for a shock in the spring, summertime. Because all those leaves come back and it just sucks up all the RF. So I can't think of what else I was going to show you at the time, tell you about. Let me open it up for any questions. What have y'all? I just like to. I had to put them in weatherproof, weather resistant housings because everything down here in South Texas, it dies from water. Where I was working, a lot of the stuff was dying because of moisture ingress. It's tough to keep water out of electronics. It really is. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Okay, the crystal oven, a crystal oscillator has, whenever they grind the crystal, there is a point where as the temperature goes up, well, the crystal is going to drift real fast, and then as it gets to this turnover, they call turnover temperature, it sort of flattens out before it starts either going up again or back down again. And usually, if you grind it, how they grind this thing whenever they make it, they determine the temperature that the crystal is going to be made for. 60 degrees C is pretty much the standard. 85, in fact, the crystal that is in that beacon out there is 85 degrees C, because that little box that's inside runs hot. And then the oven has to be above that. So the crystal oven is elevated in temperature above any excursion that the radio in the trunk of a car or up on a pole or anything like that is ever going to change. The little oven inside is precisely temperature controlled, so it won't drift as much. Well, 40 degrees C temperature from Germany versus Texas had to do something, because otherwise that rather well built little transverter just had a problem with Texas temperatures. Afterwards, I'll take the lid off and let y'all look inside and everything. But, and this one too. I'll show you. You can see up front what the gunplexer looks like. And I really, really, really wanted to have the other gunplexer with me tonight, because otherwise this thing won't receive a thing without another gunplexer that's within its frequency range. Even though it works, it's just going to sit there and scan for, where is it? Where is it? Where'd it go? Aha. On. There we go. I don't think you can see it from anywhere back there, but there's a little circuit inside that is a sweep circuit. It's sweeping the gunplexer frequency range, listening for another gunplexer within its range. And as soon as it hears it, it locks onto it. So it makes it a whole lot easier than trying to mechanically sweep around and try to find another gunplexer, especially if you're going to try to do something a little bit weaker. So now it's putting out about 10, 15 milliwatts right now. It's far enough away. It's 10.250 gigahertz, 10,250 megahertz. Far enough away that it doesn't bother that. Any other questions? Has anybody else done any VHF, UHF weak signal work? You have. Cool. Yeah. Directly up, right. Demi is Down East Microwave. They used to be in New Jersey, and now they've moved. I guess. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Oh, that's something that I've really, really wished I had access to, with some good test equipment. square dance caller. Okay. Well, if there are any more questions, I'll be glad to answer them. If not, that's about the end of what I have to show. Other than I wished I had the gunplexer. I was going to set it up and let y'all play around with it, but I can't find it. I cannot find it. I turned my shop upside down. I cannot find it. I'll trip over it. I'll trip over it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Whoa. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. All right. Well, with that, I think we're good, except I have one thing which Mr. James reminded me of. I forgot to talk about Beach to Bay. Oh, man, that's not good at all. So, do we want to talk about Mr. Beach to Bay? Do you have any updates for us there, sir? Oh, yeah, I'll even bring the mic to you. Because it's a full service kind of thing, Rusty, because I forgot about it. So I'll bring the mic to you.
Okay, Beach to Bay is on the 18th of May. Okay, so you guys that are in your stations, they want you to show up pretty early, like at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. That way you're there, and we're always talking to each other on the radio. I'll contact y'all on the day before the beach, the Beach to Bay, so I can give you your shirts and some of your parking. You're gonna have some parking stickers or something or paper they're going to give me to put in your car. That way you can park somewhere nearby. If anyone has any questions, yeah, I got my number. We're going to use a certain private repeater. I'm not going to say the repeater on the radio on this, but it's a private repeater, but I can give you the numbers and tones and stuff. If y'all need it, it's going to be a UHF repeater there in downtown in Corpus Christi. So I think that's all I got. We're ready. We have everybody ready. If anyone has any questions, feel free to call me, or I'll be here for a little while. You can ask me any questions. Okay.
Thank you, Rusty. Appreciate it. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We appreciate you all coming out. I will now dismiss you to have some fellowship. There's some cookies and tea and lemonade over there. And we'll see you all next month and see you on the radio. 73.